From one Tory to another by Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Energy Efficiency and Green Finance, Martin Callanan. Martin, lovely to see you this morning. Now, I know the government's making an announcement about energy security. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Well, throughout this week, the Prime Minister, Energy Security Secretary will be having a load of meetings with the oil and gas industry, with the renewables industry. We'll be announcing new investments in carbon capture and storage, in renewable energy, and we'll be seeking to make sure that we exploit our oil and gas reserves to the full.
I know, Minister, that you know Priti Patel very well. She is suggesting in the studio with me in the interview that you've just conducted together that actually there should be a pause in net zero and that some of these plans are just making all voters poorer. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we've got to make sure that we do it in a way that's fair and proportionate, but we now have a legal obligation to net zero by 2050. That's 27 years away, so there's still plenty of time to meet the goal. And the reality is that we have to transition away from oil and gas for two reasons. Firstly, our own supplies in the North Sea are running out, where they won't last forever. And secondly, it actually is cheaper now to have more renewables, more wind, more solar on the grid. And so if we want to have our energy security, if we want to make sure that people's bills are lower in the longer term, then it actually makes sense to roll out more renewables.
But the way that the newspapers have written this story up today, Minister, is the fact that actually the government does want to see more licences for drilling in the North Sea, unlike the Labour Party. That's where there is clear blue water, pardon the pun, between you and Keir Starmer, isn't there?
Indeed we do, and this is a long-term transition, as I said, away from oil and gas. The North Sea is a declining field. Even if we do issue more licences, then there will still be a fall in production year after year. We only get 40% of our supplies now from the North Sea. The rest has to be imported. So rather than importing things like liquid natural gas in a high carbon environment, it actually makes much more sense to use our own workers in our own oil and gas fields, generating tax for the UK exchequer. Labour's position on this is absolutely crazy. They want to put British people out of work and move away to more imports. That makes no sense whatsoever.
You've talked about the net zero target of 2050 obviously being 27 years in advance. This 2030 target to ban the sale of new petrols and diesels is fast approaching. I've had Priti Patel here telling me that she doesn't think that the country's prepared for it. There aren't enough charging points. There isn't the infrastructure in place. Surely you have to put a stop to that policy because the country just isn't ready.
No, we are committed to that, and you can already see that most of the big manufacturers are gearing up to deliver that. They've already stopped research and development on internal combustion engines. Last week, Tata announced a £4 billion investment for Jaguar Land Rover in battery production facilities. And the reality is this is the way the world is moving, and we want to be at the forefront of that technology. Clearly, we need to do more in terms of rolling out the infrastructure. There's a lot of investment waiting in new charging points to come on stream. We have to make sure we remove the barriers, planning barriers, regulatory barriers, to stop that happening.
Minister, a final answer, please, if you could be brief, just on this issue that has been raised by the Federation of Small Businesses today, 100,000 small businesses at risk from rising energy costs. You've done things for people in the home. Are you doing enough for businesses? Because that seems an extraordinary number of people that might go under because they can't pay their bills.
Well, clearly, that's one of the reasons why we need to transition away from oil and gas. Putin's invasion of Ukraine saw a massive spike in energy prices. The government stepped in over the winter. We paid about half of people's energy bills. We paid a considerable portion of business energy bills as well. Clearly, we'll keep these matters under review, but we want energy prices to come down in the longer term, which is why we have a policy which is devoted towards increasing energy security, towards rolling out more renewables, because they're the cheapest form of energy, because that's the best way to produce a sustainable economy for the future.
Lord Callanan, thank you very much for joining me this morning.